Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to episode 67 of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, executive editor of Total Retail. Today I'm joined by Molly Kang, founder of Floravere, the first direct-to-consumer luxury bridal brand delivering wedding gowns directly to customers' doorsteps. We're going to be discussing the launch of Floravere and how it figures to disrupt the traditional bridal gown industry. Thanks for joining me, Molly.
Good to be here. Thanks so much.
So let's just start with having you tell us a little bit about Floravere. Tell us about the product, your customers, where you guys are located, just some kind of the details about the business for our audience.
Yeah, sure. So Floravere is like you said, a direct-to-consumer new bridal brand. Essentially, we're offering a completely new way to experience the wedding dress shopping experience and process. So to start, it's our own brand of high-end luxury wedding gowns that we design in-house. And then we sell them online so that women can actually try on samples at home. So she can have that sort of try-on experience in the comfort of her own home, on her own time, with her own friends. And then she will actually then go back online to purchase her custom-made gown just for herself. And again, that experience is all online as well. So our big sort of differentiator is in the traditional bridal world, most of it happens offline in a retail store. And that comes with its own set of challenges, which I'm sure we'll go into. So for our business model, it's sort of predicated on the belief that sort of modern women and modern brides today, a lot of them would actually prefer the convenience of a digital experience.
So let's then talk a little bit about your background and online retail, retail in general. You, as I mentioned, founded the Floravere. Can you just talk about sort of your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually started my career in consulting. So I was at Bain & Company, the consulting firm, and I worked on a few retail cases there. So I was always interested in retail and gravitated towards that industry. So worked with a few huge, Fortune 100 companies. And then actually also spent 6 months at a small lingerie startup in New York called Journal. At Bain, they actually let you take 6 months off during your tenure there to go work at, small companies or startups or nonprofits. It's a great opportunity. Actually, they call it an externship. So that's sort of where I got my feet wet in the e-commerce world for the first time. So they were launching their e-commerce channel, and it was a really exciting time. It was sort of the beginning of the huge wave that we would see in e-commerce, and every vertical was sort of seeing online players come into it. So that was where that first experience came from. And then after I left Bain, I joined Guess in LA, and I joined the North America brand turnaround team to sort of work on, getting sort of the brand and the product turned around in the States. It's such a sort of legacy brand, and so that was amazing to sort of get that experience to see how large retailers with just so many stores, how they run their business. And then that's when I went to get my MBA. So I went to Stanford for my MBA. And when I went to business school, I actually already had the idea for Floravere. I'd actually written my admissions essay on the idea and how I wanted to launch it after school. So I did my internship at a company called Reformation. They're sort of the it cool girl brand today for online clothing. And that was where I really got to see firsthand how clothes are made end to end. They're totally vertically integrated, and they do all of their manufacturing in-house. So I got to just sit on the floor and, see how the fabric gets cut and rolled, and how patterns are made, and how sample making works, and how garments are actually sewn. So that's sort of the end-to-end experience that I've seen from the retail side.
Yeah, it's kind of a varied background, and as you mentioned, sort of that experience in retail with some really interesting brands. So then that takes us to, how did you get the inspiration to start Floravere? That you mentioned that you in business school you kind of had the idea in your head. What was really your inspiration for getting the business started?
Yeah, so the initial spark for the idea happened nearly 8 years ago. So I went wedding dress shopping with one of my best friends. sort of my childhood best friend. And, for a lot of women, it's this, it's an experience that you kind of imagine, oftentimes before women are even engaged. And I think a lot of shows like Say Yes to the Dress, and there's a lot of sort of romantic notions around what that process looks like. It's obviously a very special purchase. And so when my best friend got engaged, we started on our journey, started making appointments, started going to these wedding dress shops. And for us, we just had a terrible experience. There were so many roadblocks and hurdles that we had to overcome. You have to make these appointments weeks in advance. Appointments on weekends are often booked up weeks to months in advance at popular shops. She lived in sort of a smaller city. She wasn't, in LA or New York. And so the selection in the local stores seemed really outdated to me compared to what I was seeing online and on Pinterest. And then prices, there's not a lot of price transparency. So gowns often don't even have price tags. So you sort of have that awkward kind of maybe like the car dealership experience where they're like asking you your budget. You're trying to figure out how much things are. And you're probably a little bit sheepish about it. We were in our early 20s. And yeah, there are just a host of things. You don't actually see what dresses the shops have. So when you make these appointments and you turn up to try things on, they may not actually have anything that you're interested in, but there's no way for you to know that in advance. And then once you do find the dress that you like, it takes generally about 6 to 9 months to get it made, which a lot of people aren't aware of. So I myself, when I got engaged, I had a bit of a shorter engagement, about 5 months. And so a lot of stores were actually turning me down. They wouldn't even give me appointments because they knew that I couldn't get the dress made in time.
Now, I was going to mention, so yeah, you kind of mentioned this, and this is all offline, obviously, making appointments and going to these stores.
Right.
So, and you mentioned that this has always been a process that's occurred, offline. So, which takes us to Floravere and bringing this model online. Can you talk about why you believe there's a customer need for this and desire for it, and why you think it can work?
Yeah, I mean, I view myself as sort of, the target consumer, and that I think shopping behavior has changed dramatically in the past few years. And for younger women today who are getting engaged, who've sort of very accustomed to and comfortable with e-commerce and shopping online, I think that there's just such a need for women to sort of leverage the convenience of the internet in this process. And sort of the beauty of what we offer and what I wanted was sort of merging that offline and online experience. So obviously, purchasing such a big item, you're not going to do it without trying it on first. But the traditional way to purchase online, you couldn't really try on before you buy. So what we do is we offer these samples that you can try on at home in advance. And you kind of get the best of both worlds then. You can try it on, you can have your friends come over, get their opinions, invite your mom, and do all of that. But then you get sort of the ease and access of buying online, especially, I say for women who don't live in cities like Manhattan or in LA, who don't have access to sort of the higher end, more luxurious styles and fashion forward gowns, we can ship them directly to them.
Do you offer? And you mentioned one of the challenges when you went through the experience with one of your best friends looking at gowns was the lack of price transparency. Is on Floravere, do customers that are browsing and shopping gowns, do they know what the cost is going to be?
Yeah, so we've deliberately designed our website to look and feel very much like a traditional e-commerce site, but we display all of our prices right there. All of our gowns are less than $4,000. So most high-end designer gowns tend to sort of start at 4K, and I was personally quite shocked. They easily go up to $10,000, sometimes $15,000. And so given we're direct to consumer, we are able to offer really radically value to customers. So all of our gowns are less than 4K. They start at $1,500, and we sort of think that that's a pretty sweet spot for the higher end range of bridal.
Yeah, and then let's talk a little bit about, obviously, starting your own business. There's going to be some hiccups along the way and challenges that you're going to have to confront and overcome. Can you talk about what were those challenges? Maybe there's still ongoing challenges in running Floravere, and then what are some of the things you're doing to potentially overcome some of those challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I would say every day comes with its own set of challenges, and starting a new company and a new brand. The initial largest challenge that I had faced was breaking into this luxury bridal world. So it's a pretty small, tight knit community, and sort of the best of the best in terms of the resources. It was a long process of breaking into that. I wanted to make sure that our gowns were being made in the same factories and ateliers that make the super high-end designer gowns. So getting in touch with the right pattern makers and sewers and designers and sort of assembling that all-star team really took a lot of legwork to sort of break into that world. So I would say that was sort of the biggest challenge in starting. And then on just the pure business side, it was really a creative exercise in coming up with the branding. So one of the things that I felt as a consumer was that a lot of bridal brands just didn't have the right voice, or the brands didn't quite resonate with me. They felt a little bit more formal, a little bit stiff, and I feel like a lot of younger consumers and millennial brides today are just seeking brands that sort of feel more down to earth and talk the way that they talk and look the way that they're seeking to look. And so we spent a lot of time on the creative side, sort of building the brand and creating the right brand assets for that.
As we mentioned, this is a new brand, obviously a new venture. So kind of a two-part question here is, what are you doing to drive awareness of Floravere? Maybe talk a little bit about some of the ways that you're marketing the business,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of a second follow up to that is, driving that awareness. Then how do you scale that and try to continue to grow?
Yep. Yeah. So for the initial awareness, granted it's only been a few weeks since we've launched, but we've gotten a really overwhelming response organically. So when we pitched the idea to editors at a bunch of different fashion outlets, they all loved the idea. Many of them had gone wedding dress shopping themselves, and just immediately got it. It was so amazing to sort of see that confirmation of the need. And so we got amazing press coverage in the past couple weeks and sort of all the top outlets, and InStyle and Brides and Who What Wear and the Zoe Report and Harper's Bazaar. The list kind of goes on. And so we were so fortunate to sort of get that response. So that was a huge driver of awareness for us. And then the second platform that we've really been leveraging is social media. So, women today, at least myself, I found I discovered a ton of the brands that I was shopping for through Pinterest and Instagram. So those have been platforms that we've been incredibly focused on to drive awareness and get the word out there of our brand. And then to answer the second part of your question, in terms of growing the business, we have so many ambitious plans to get out there fast. So in the near term, we're actually working on our sophomore collection of gowns right now with a really exciting designer. And that'll be unveiled sometime next year, probably sometime in February. So we're incredibly excited about that. One aspect of our business that makes us unique is most bridal brands are tied to the fashion calendar, so they release collections twice a year. But given that we're not tied to the traditional retail model, we're going to be releasing small collections throughout the year. It also enables us to tap into kind of the empty capacity of these factories when they're not busy, again, which further drives our value to consumers. So that's a really exciting part that we're working on. And then in the longer term, I would just love for us to become sort of the destination bridal brand for millennial women and expand our product offerings to include, whatever the bride needs on her big day, whether it be shoes or accessories, and a full offering of veils, and the list kind of goes on and on when you think of the whole sort of bride process end to end.
Yeah, it would seem like that would be a good opportunity, and I thought that was a good, I probably, when I'm asking that question about marketing, it is a good point that, your target demographic, these millennial women, very active segment on social media, so it seems like it would be a good, perfect fit there for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we find that we get such great engagement on those platforms. And also, I think it's a really authentic way to speak to your customers. You can do so much more with it than you can in other channels. It's like the communication is instant, and you can comment back, and you can really be talking to them in a really immediate way, which we've enjoyed.
And then my final question, Molly, is, just from your experience and, the business being Floravere being a couple weeks old now, do you have any advice that you might offer other aspiring entrepreneurs, other people in our audience who may be looking to launch their own businesses, and particularly around online retail?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say I've spent, 2+ years building the business before we launched. And it was a long road. So my number one advice is really to persevere, because there are an endless number of challenges that will come up. And things always take twice as long, 3 times as long, 4 times as long as you think they will. And so really just keeping your eye on the prize and remembering why you're wanting to start this business, because there will be ups and downs, and that's just kind of comes with the territory. So I've seen a lot of my friends who are also interested in starting online retail, when they hit these roadblocks, wondering if that meant that the need wasn't there, or wondering if the product was meant to be. So my number one advice would be to not doubt yourself and to just keep going. And then I think sort of a corollary to that, I think also really honing in on what makes your product different. I think right now, sort of the pros and cons with online retail is it's so easy to start your own, online store, and to build your own website and to start selling products online. And so I think we're seeing a lot of products kind of flood the market. And so really honing in on why your product is different, or how you sell your products are different, or actually both in our case. And I think if you hone in on that, then sort of the response will be really enthusiastic and kind.
Great. Well, some really good advice there for our audience. I want to take this opportunity to thank Molly Kang of Floravere for her time telling us a little bit about the launch of her new business, which again is the first direct-to-consumer luxury bridal brand for wedding gowns. You can check out our podcast channel page, mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on iTunes and Stitcher, but make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. Lastly, please follow us on Twitter at mytotalretail or on Facebook at facebook.com/mytotalretail. Thanks, and I look forward to you joining us on the next episode of Total Retail Talks.